Edgar Allan, Chapter 9. The first changes were nothing you could put your finger on exactly. It was, as my mother said, just something in the air. Mother drove Stephen and Edgar Allan to their first morning in nursery school. For them, too, it was church school. I guess maybe because Allan was there and it made sense to have them all in the same place. Father had thought about nursery school for EA since he was its principal. Father couldn't very well not send him to his own school. Besides, since he was in charge there, he could watch and see exactly what happened, when it happened, and if anything happened. But Father didn't tell the teacher of the preschool class, there were two, one in the morning and one in the afternoon, that the two kids coming in weren't really from the same family. I guess it's his way of testing the woman to see how she felt about a Negro in the school at all. She was a pretty girl, and Father hoped she wouldn't disappoint him. It turned out she didn't. When Mother brought Stephen and Edgar Allan into class, the teacher didn't say anything and didn't. So, Mother said, dropped a stitch. She just said hello and let them move right in with the other kids. And none of them had objected either. After all, when the average age in the class is a little more than 3, who knows enough to think of reasons to be unpleasant? So the morning went along just fine. The something in the air occurred afterward, and it was very simple. All the mothers of the kids in the class had driven to school at noon to pick up their children. My mother was among them. They all sat there in their cars, waiting. The kids came out. Each one naturally went to his own car, or if someone was driving someone else home, to that car. Stephen and EA came out together, and seeing Mother and the station wagon, let out a holler and ran to meet her. The other mothers, seeing EA for the first time, even though they had heard about him before, watched very closely. They watched as he and Stephen, laughing together, climbed into the back seat, and as each leaned over the seat to kiss Mother on the cheek. Then Mother drove away. The something in the air, Mother said, was the look that came from the parked cars, a little surprise that EA really did exist, and the questioning, what is he doing here with our children? Mother told Father all this after dinner as they were having coffee. I had stuck around because I didn't feel like doing homework right away, and because I could tell Mother that had something on her mind. You're imagining things, Eleanor, my father said, and that's understandable. But I can't believe that those women would think a 3-year-old is a threat to their own children. He's not just any 3-year-old, Robert. He's black. That's a threat, my mother said. I will give you 5 to 1 that by tomorrow afternoon you will have 3 calls from 3 separate mothers, each wanting to know exactly what that child is doing in their school. My mother, though she looks sort of quiet and firm and likes to think a lot, is really a gambler at heart. Father says that when he proposed to her, she gave him 3 to 1 odds he couldn't support her the first year of their marriage. She won too, and so she went to work to help out. And Mother was right this time as well. The next afternoon, when she was there to pick up EA and Stephen, there were the uneasy mothers sitting and watching again. And in the few cars, I guess because their wives had made them leave work. And in their cars, I guess because their wives had made them leave work to come and see for themselves, sat fathers too. Both mothers said, watch hawk-like as EA climbed into the back seat. By 4 o'clock that day, Father had not 3 but 4 calls, and had done his best to explain and soothe people. This happened at the school, in his office, and I was sorry about that because I had heard all about this, that mean stomach thing grumble again, and I wondered a little what Father had to say to those people. Nothing much happened for a while, mostly because we had the weekend. But in church that Sunday, you could notice a change in the way people looked at Father and listened to him. It was as if they were trying to listen in the back of his words, trying to figure out what he was really saying and really thinking. And what was he going to do next? This was silly. Father just went ahead and gave his usual sort of sermon. It was all about the last being first and the first being last into heaven, and how the first and the last would have to arrive hand in hand, working together to gain admittance. If the words he had said meant anything special, it was because the way people were listening, not because the way he was saying them. I was glad that day that EA and Stephen weren't yet allowed to come to church with us. Mother says there's no point in having anyone under 4 trying to sit in a pew when what was going on won't mean a thing to them anyway. S.A. herself had only begun to join us, and she was difficult enough to keep still. One nice thing, though, was the way S.A. would look up at Father when he spoke. You could tell she thought he was the tallest and most important man in the world. Not so many people came afterward that day to say hello, but it was raining, which is a rare for our town, and they probably were in a hurry to get home out of the bad weather. One more thing I remember about that Sunday. I began to wonder if that awful feeling in the pit of my stomach was going to hang on for the rest of my life. When I looked up the word ulcer in the dictionary when I got home.